How's it going? Hi, Junior and Joseph. J- Jean-Luc. How are you? How are things in Switzerland? They're cold here. Oh boy. What I was um what I was hoping to to sort of explore and talk about today is what's happened during the pandemic because of the supply that went south on us, so to speak, and the prices that have just gone to the moon. Very cold, and yeah, it's cold here too. Um, there's we're in a well, it's about Celsius. It's about 5 or 10 below 0 Celsius. So I don't know what it is there, but yeah, Jean Luc, it is looks cold. Hi, Red Man, how you doing? Hey, John, good to see you. Anyway, eh, wait, I was thinking about this after this morning. I thought, well, there's going to be a lot of them who are going to go online. There are a lot of advantages for some of some of the big ones or some of the important ones, and that has to do is that you don't have the nut to pay for bricks and mortar, but more importantly, if all of the watches for the really the tip top are going to boutiques, you're getting rid of the ADs. So you're not going to go down to your corner watchmaker anymore and get some of the top brands, but instead you go directly uh, to the boutique or and their online store, so to speak. The profits just, I mean, the profits are huge, and of course the AD gets left out. Hey Lee, how you doing? Uh, hey Orange Hand, how are you? Hi Rich. Um, so anyway, so these things, as far as selling watches is concerned, but there is no reason that I can see that they're going to lower the price. They don't want the supply to go to the point where they have to lower the price. And so they got to be, they have to be careful about this, but they're way high. Hi, John and Marita. Uh, so anyway, uh, looking at this, the question is now shifts to collectors. If some guy, let's say that somebody wants to spend 40, $50,000 on a watch, I mean, you can do that. Most of us don't have 40, $50,000. Basically, I think I don't know why. Maybe I'm wrong, but there's a break point around 20,000. At least for me. I mean, and when I say break, I mean really break. Um, and y- so we'll see what happens. Hi, Patrick. Um, hey, Clyde, how you doing? If the Chinese economy goes down the toilet and brings down the global markets as well, it'll dampen the market. Yeah, that's what happened last time when they had what was called the Asian crisis, or any market really. One of the interesting things that we that I never brought up before, but I thought is very interesting. I think there is some money, yeah. um, the the FP Journe opened up a store in Kiev. Okay, why would FP Journe open up a store in Kiev in uh, the Ukraine? Some money's coming from somewhere. I mean, serious money. During the time that I was looking for an FP Journe, I did some dealing with a watch store in, Kiev. Or, of course, that was before the boutique was there, before the FP Journe boutique. But that's another interesting market, sort of the oligarch market. Now, if you're talking about the quote the oligarch market of Eastern Europe and somewhere, either in Russia or in one of the Belarus or wherever they are, you're talking about some serious money. And so this is so that's one of the things. But we don't. At least I don't. I don't have serious money. I suppose if I sold some of my watches, I might. But for the most part, I just don't see it. I don't see those collectors who really appreciate seriously good horology. What are the options that they have if they if and again without the money? The watches like this one. This is my Philip Roth uh, chronograph. And the thing of it is that I got a really good deal on this, but they're gone. I mean, they're poof, they all went away. And they're not gonna make any more of these. This is from the early 2000s when Philip Roth and Roger Dubuis and some of these other guys who were sort of these masters, and they're gonna be gone. Uh, I've also looked at the AHCI. This is the independent group, and again, a place where you're looking for some seriously good watches. There was this young guy in France, I forgot his name, makes these incredibly good watches. I thought, "Oh boy, here's a guy that, you know, just started off, and so he'll give us a good deal." Forget about it. I mean, his prices started around $30,000. And I thought, well, there were some guys in China, again, AHCI guys, and there was this one guy that seemed to, on a lunch break, he'd make a new movement. And I thought, oh boy, well, maybe he 50,000. So forget about that. I mean, these prices are, I, for oligarchs and people with serious amount of money. And that's okay. And so what is the alternative? And what's it gonna look like? I mean, whether you pay $30,000 online or you pay it through go down to Joe's watch store and pay it, it's usually out of range. Now, also going out of range, I used to think that some of the really good deals, I mean, just for a good sort of like a Mac truck of watches, you go down and get a Rolex. You get a Rolex for I don't know what, just around 5,000, I think, for the ones I liked, which was the Air King. Nobody else did, but that's okay. They've gone up to 7,000, and they're they and the perpetual. No, it's not called that. It's the oyster. The perpetual oyster. I don't know what they're called. Anyway, those their bottom is really, really uh, going up. Okay, so these. So the question is, where do we get these really, really good movement? Now, that I think is something that someone approach, and this is especially true with what they call micro or mini uh, brands, micro brands. What most of the micro brands that I've seen have been doing have been putting all of their resources in in the dial, in the design of the watch, not in the movement. And they'll put something in there. Some of them put in some pretty good stuff. Like this one guy does this really nice Guy He throws in a UWD 33.1, 33.2, and sells them for $30,000. I mean, basically, you're paying $30,000 for a $4 or $5,000 movement with the guy, at home with his Rose machine or Rose turning machine, whatever it's called. But I mean, and if you look at most of the other ones, is that all of the everything goes into the the dial, not the movement. And really, if you believe that all of the real magic is in the movement, then you're out of luck. I mean, Gerbil Force, FP Jorn, Kari Voutilanen, the Gronfeld brothers, all of the ones that make the really tough stuff is just they just zip 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 zipping their way up there now. And there's demand with for people and oligarchs. Excuse me. They can't keep them in stock. They can't make enough of them. So this is sort of I think sort of what the post pandemic market is going to look like, and there's going to be more micro brands coming up because I think that some movements that they can get easily, like the UWD. I mean, I'm hoping so. The Vaucheur, what are they called? Vaucheur Fleurier uh, manufacturer, uh, and then Crenode. Those are three sources where you can buy movements, and I mean good movements, really good movements. And some of the other places, if you can get them that specialize in movements, like any watchmaker, really, any of the big time watchmakers can make and sell a movement, but will they or will they not? And that's sort of the tricky part. But I mean, if the only way that I think you can be able to get a really good watch, and this is where I'm going with this. I think more and more people are going to realize that, say, if we get together, we can get enough guys together, we can go ahead and make our own because it's not easy by any stretch of the imagination. You have to have a large number of people because there are some basic costs that are going to be high, but then but you're still getting it for a fraction of what you'd pay in this either directly from the watchmaker. Now, the watchmaker, if you take like Patek Philippe, for example, or Vacheron Constantin, they're not going to sell you a movement. Forget about that. Neither's Rolex. Uh, and the only company I know that sells watches that'll also sell you a movement is it. Well, I don't want to say it's Parmigiani. It's not Parmigiani. It's one of the vertical uh, movement makers that is part of whew, Parmigiani, which is Vaucheur manufacturer, Vaucheur Fleurier manufacturer, VFM. Okay, that and Crenode. I just discovered them, and I think that they have one base movement, and they have a couple that are on top of that base movement, but they have some other ones that mixed in with ETAs. But there are opportunities, and by the same token, you can go to some top notch case makers. You can go to some top notch dial makers too. It becomes a little trickier now. If you're a company making movements and you got an order for 500 from someone or 100 or 200 or whatever they are, the only way, and then they turn around and sold usually for roughly sort of the 10 to 1, the manufactured price times 10, even times 5. You're dealing with a huge amount of money that most of us can't afford. Okay, what do you got here? Oh, Rancher, you're going to have to put that in another way. Rancher says what I say isn't necessarily true because earlier this year, um, when Urban Jurgensen sort of started getting rid of their old stock very quickly for great prices, not everybody jumped on it. Well, they sold out pretty quickly, and they hadn't before, so I don't know if it's not true. They just didn't do as well initially. And again, I think, the rancher's right. People don't know about it if they're not popular. That's not the brand's fault. I think the people who are always gonna end up better are the people who spend some time and learn about watches and watchmaking. Um, some and I don't wanna mention any brand, okay? But you take a popular brand and you talk to one of those guys in that popular brand, they don't even know the movements. They have no idea about the movements. Some do, but a lot of them don't. They're just and oftentimes what they know is that they read off of what the the guy who's writing the copy for the company says. But in terms of what it does. Now, there's another trend that I think is going to be huge. Um, and and to me, it really changes the nature of certain kinds of watch collection. One is the use of silicon. I think that um, my FP Journe every now and then gets magnetized. In fact, I had to demagnetize it this morning. And for people who depend on a watch for day-to-day uses, uh, to have a watch that's going to magnetize and screw up the timing on it, that becomes important. For, for people who are more interested in sort of the characteristics of the movement. Now, there's some hairsprings, like the one made by H. Moser, and actually in the same one made by Rolex, the Parachrome and the Strausser, I think, or Strawman, something like that, the one that H. Moser makes. Those are pretty good. I mean, as far as anti-magnetic are concerned. But the important thing about it is with metal hairsprings, you can adjust them with either carbon ones that Kasapi's working on with Tag Heuer or the silicon ones. I think the silicon's going to spill over pretty much, and pretty much that's going to be the hairspring, either that or carbon. The reason I think that is because they work so well. Okay, now being a sort of a we'll call ourselves, or I'll call myself sort of the classic. If Brigade did it, then I think it's okay. That kind of metallurgy. But then you start putting in, say, well, you want to have it more accurate. If I wanted something really accurate, I just use my iPhone, or I go back to a quartz. You're not going to beat a quartz, or you're not going to beat an iPhone with or a smartwatch. Uh, I mean, these guys are tagged in. A lot of them, you get them, and you look at them, and they check with an atomic clock somewhere and do it. I mean, online they do it. So I think that it's going to be an interesting thing, but I also think that it's the more. I mean, people who spend time learning about the more nuances about mechanical watches, the better off they're going to be. John, are you talking about pretentious watchmakers? That's no, no, pretentious watchmakers. It's sort of the thing about pretentious watchmakers. The funny thing about it is, they're all they're doing is putting together sort of standard cases, standard movements, standard dials, anything that you can get from AliExpress or someplace like that. And if you get fancy, like I tried to do and got a Sopra and a German case, I'm still trying to put them together. that was that turned out to be a little more difficult. Or one by one of the Washer movements. Now, if beyond the pretentious watchmakers, John, is sort of the next step is to say, look, and I like that name, pretentious watchmakers, because we're not real watchmakers, but we're sure having a good time putting stuff together. you can go to a case maker, or you can go to buy a good movement, and then go out and to a case maker, to a dial maker and so forth, and say, look, this is what I want, and have them make it for you. And the only problem with it is that the affordable ones are sort of off the shelf. The ones that are much more expensive, you have they have a whole production system that they have to go through to make a bespoke case for you. That reminds me of something else. Hey, Mark, how you doing? Uh, hey, Truman and Thomas. Here's something else, that one of the things that uh, is sort of characteristic of the top watchmakers is that at some point in time they worked in restoration. Okay, and I was thinking, is that when you look at most of the designs, the micro guys, they go in and have a design. A lot of them have sort of classic fonts for the numbers, and classic case styles and dial styles and hands and so forth. Finding a brigade hand on a micro uh, uh, brand is no big thing. Ophion, who is a company I really like a lot, because I just like the way they went about things. The one thing that they were really proud of was the hand. They made a hand, their own hand. Well, that's good. I don't know what's involved in that, but these are some other kinds of things. What I'm trying to say is that you know um, there are possibilities of getting to something more affordable, other than going down there with your finger in your nose to an AD and say, give me the best deal I can get. And now, or sitting online and doing the same thing. Okay, hey Foreman, how you doing? Nuances or nuances, anything like tonuses. Let's see. Hey Steve, how you doing? Speaking of pretentious, here I am. Hi, Neff. In the area of pretentious, Neff, I don't like any competition. Let's see, 49 and sunny today. Good. Well, ours is, and it's sort of the reverse of that. It's dyslectic of that in South Florida. Hey, Foreman, value shopping, I price the movement if it's common one, then figure out how much they are making in the case design. Thousands of dollars makes no sense for an ETA or Solita base, but that's what they're selling them for. Take a look at all you got to do is go and look at a lot of the stuff that IWC, I think, and Brightly, and some of these other ones are starting to shape up, uh, because I think people got tired of paying that much for it. Hi, Jurgen. Let's see. Um, just some piano. Thank you, Joseph. What did Joseph say here? Come on, what are you thanking Joseph for? Um, a black and rose gold goes very well, in my opinion, dressing style. Okay. The restoration, you mean a session to James's? Yeah, that's exactly. Well, isn't that where the name uh from the Royal Oak came from? He was hiding in a tree that came to be the Royal Oak when I think the Roundheads were out to lynch him. Okay, Joseph, let's see. A black dial and a rose gold case watch is pure elegance. It is. Um, Calabresi's new watches don't even have hairsprings. Oh, I didn't. Oh, wait a minute, John, you're right. Calabrese has this new device. I forgot what it's called, but it's really neat. That kind of thing. And those are some of the things that where you have these really tip-top watchmakers who do some innovation. And you do get it from people like Calabrese. But Calabrese hasn't had anything like that in quite a while. But I'm very glad he has one now. Guest 2798. What is your opinion on the Russian Vostok um, amphibian? You know, I like those watches. I like to get the little diver swimming along. If they had a shark chasing them, I think I like them even better. Those watches, I think, and I think the rancher can correct me if I'm wrong about that, but a lot of the Russian watches were from some watch company, some American watch company in Ohio or someplace like that. The Russians bought it. This is right after the revolution, I think in the 1930s, shipped it to Russia and been making a lot of watches off of those initial designs for years now. So there are a lot of interesting things there going on with the Russians watch business. When I was in St. Petersburg a few years ago, I was in this shop and I saw some Russian watches. They got a whole load of them. What I would like to see from Russian watches and Russian watchmakers, like what's his name? Who's the guy that makes one with the googly eyes and so forth? Konstantin, I forgot his last name. But I would like to see some really interesting horology inside of those. I mean, he's got some pretty basic stuff behind that, but not more in terms of all of the work that's been done was for on the dial and how it presented itself rather than the workings of the movement. Oh, Vostok, and so does there's another one. I've got the my Russian watch is a an alarm watch. But now that's another kind of watch collection too, is that you have sort of your what I call the oddball collection, like my collection of Jacques 736s. I've got a bunch of those, and that's sort of a fun one because they're relatively inexpensive, and I like the movement, and it's got a great story behind it. Shaken, that's the one, Jean-Luc. Thanks, and guests, thank you also. The Calabrese Calasis is under the testing stage. He is now considering new materials. Joseph, that would be a watch worth going after if he doesn't jack up the price. See, one of the things that you hear, and this is another thing that I think that we might want to figure out is that they say it costs X millions of dollars to introduce a new movement, and that's how come they're still using ETAs and Solitas. Um, that's another approach is to find a good movement that's already been done and then simply dress it up with and by dressing it up I mean it making providing something to it, some kind of module or complication. Now, most of the things that people think about when they say, "Well, I'm going to fix it up or improve it," is the finishing or something like that. They're going to put, snaling on the barrel or some other thing, which really is nice, and it does add to the looks of the movement. But in terms of sort of a something to address the problem of constant force. I mean, it's sort of the sledgehammer way of addressing constant force. That's what I see silicon as. We're going to get rid of magnification, but somebody can't adjust it, and we're using silicon. And then, like I said, Kasapi's working with carbon, uh, with Tag Heuer's. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Googly eyes are Constantine shaken because the eyes it got a hitting the vodka. Um, anyone know anything about the ETA 2871? I don't. Wow, is it time's up already? Thanks. Thanks a lot. Sorry if I sort of went on. What do I think of the $6,000 Citizen Caliber 020 with the La Jeu Pereira movement? I don't know that much about the Lejeune, Pereire on that one, but it would be interesting to find out about, a guest. Anyway, guys, like, I was told, it's time for me to go so I don't get in trouble again. And but anyway, it's something to think about. I mean, some other options other than, we're gonna go down and we'll just get the watches the way we normally have. And of course, you can be able to do it as long as you have enough money. Right, Rancher, today's been crazy, so the answer is yes. And so anyway, take care. See you guys. Everybody stay safe. Connecticut and a couple other states, they've seen this stuff go down. And Connecticut's been pretty good about vaccines and wearing masks and stuff. So there may be the end of the tunnel. And I know a lot of other countries are starting to go the same thing. So there may be post pandemic for us all, but stay safe in the meantime. Take care.